Change is good no matter what, and it's natural in life. So I've seen a lot of musicians, artists, whatever, a little bit disenfranchised because they didn't seem to evolve with change. Change is something you need to accept and in order to adapt well to it. So it's harrowing sometimes with how quickly a picture can change its structure, how the narrative can be impacted by, let's say, an epiphany with the meeting between the studio and a director, or a test screening that might shed some light on something that would be an important storytelling point. That all impacts the score. So the tempo at which we have to create and then recreate, and then at the end produce the final product is enormous. There were movies that, Dawn of the Dead I actually did pretty quickly for myself at that time. It was only a few weeks. But 300, I was working with them for a year and a half before they got a deal. And then they shot to some music. Guardians of the Galaxy, James Gunn usually will have me write music for a few months before he films and then during filming.
Does he listen to that while he's filming?
The actors, cinematographers, everybody. They digitally remove the earbuds from their ears in those sequences afterwards. But what that allows us to do, considering how frenetic the process can be in post-production, it allows us to establish what is the language of this film. So we don't have the what is it being determined in post-production. We already know what we feel the language of the film or the syntax is.
That's really radical. It's also a throwback. I mean, I think Nino Rota wrote music and gave it to Fellini, who I think he just listened to it while he was shooting or the night before, and you hear that it informed the way he felt about the next day's shoot. But actually having score for actors that's so cool.
Yeah.
It's really great.
And actually, the first time I showed up to the set on Guardians 1, Chris Pratt was the first person I ran into, and he had commented immediately. He says, "Dude, it was so awesome shooting to music." He said, "It just put me right in the film."
I bet.
And, the directors nowadays on these movies that are massive have very little time. Like James Gunn and I don't hang out in my studio like we once did. So in order for me to have a connection with him throughout the film, I think some of the development of music before and during production is something that stays with him a lot more. So we're already in another phase of the conversation, once we get into post-production, and he has very little time to spend with me. And I get it. There's a gazillion visual effects. They're doing pickup shots or reshoots or whatever's going to happen over the course of a few months.
It also saves the shock that happened. Of course, it's happened to you. It happened to me a lot, which is when the studio sees the film for the first time with the new music. They've either heard a temp or they've heard no music, and they're like, "What is this?" It hasn't settled yet that this is the voice of the composer. This is the sound of the film. If there's a little bit of pre-production on the music, you've saved that.